One of the places in the world that I've never been to, that I've always wanted to go, is Normandy, the beaches of Normandy. Because, and this has been happening ever since I became an American citizen, but way before that. I've always admired the sacrifice and the heroism of American soldiers. I grew up watching, not only the TV shows, but also the movies of the heroism of the Second World War and the battles and D-Day. But beyond the graphic images, I admired the ideals that moved young men in this country to go to war and to fight in faraway lands for freedom. You see, when people are born in freedom, it's hard to understand what it means not to be free. So it makes it even harder to fight for freedom, because you have nothing to compare it to. So to be shipped off to a land that's far away from you, that in many cases you have no idea where it is, and like it was the case, for example, in the First World War, knowing that you, in 90% of the cases, you would not come back, and that you would lay down your life for your country, for freedom, was a tremendous, tremendous thing. For me as a Jew, to celebrate Shavuot on Memorial Day has a profound meaning. Because we as Jews should never take lightly the fact that we can study the Torah and learn Torah in freedom because of those people that sacrificed it all so that we can do this here today. Because we know better than anyone else what it feels like not to be able to be who we are at all times. How many times in history, how many times were we told we couldn't be, we couldn't study, we couldn't become, we couldn't assemble, we couldn't go to school, we couldn't fully trade or engage in business, or leave our homes or a specific area of residence because we were Jewish? 2 nights ago we assembled here in the synagogue and we discussed the Torah. We discussed religion and theology freely, without coercion, without anyone watching over our shoulders. We celebrated the gift of Torah. And we should never take lightly that we can do so in America in modernity because of those brave souls that laid down their lives so that we could live in a free country. Now I speak about Normandy because D-Day really exemplifies what this country stands for. Thousands of young people giving their lives at the prime of their life, laying it down on a beach, thousands of miles away from their own homes, from Middle America, from the East Coast, from the West Coast, dreaming of what a world could be, clouded by the shadow of Nazism or dictatorships or any system of government that can cloud the day of liberty. So on this day when we pray Yizkor, I ask you to think of them, of every single one of them. And we as Jews, as American Jews, we all have parents and grandparents who served in the military. And many of us have children and spouses and siblings who have continued to serve in the military. I have friends that I met in school, in rabbinical school, who have served in the military as chaplains, proudly. And may it continue to be, as we, as American Jews, continue to write together with our non-Jewish brothers and sisters the history of our country. Because it's a history not only of freedom, but also of tolerance. And the religious system of this country is something that not only needs to be studied and learned from, but exported to all the corners of this earth. As we gather for Yizkor, we always ponder on the questions of life. And as we explore the questions of freedom and how we live our lives on the shadow of the giants that laid down theirs so that we could be who we are today, I want to share with you a story that I read just the other day. I was at a Shiva the other day, and somebody mentioned somebody who had passed away. And I said, oh, I didn't know. And they said, Rabbi, you didn't read the eulogy? And I said, I don't read eulogies constantly. I gather there's some people that, every day they look at the newspaper and they look at the eulogies to see who's passed away. I don't do that. So I try to now, since that happened, look at the eulogies. And I've been looking at a couple of different sites, and there's something called the Eulogizer on the internet that's run by the Jewish Telegraphic Agency that tells you about famous Jews and not so famous Jews that have passed away. And I ran across a eulogy that profoundly moved me, that I want to share with you this morning, about a man by the name of Richard Tapper, that I thought I'd share with you on Yizkor because I think it can really help us to put both Memorial Day and Shavuot and Yizkor and our thoughts on the Torah and who we are as Jews all together and in context. Richard Tapper was a Canadian Jew. He was born and he lived in the city of Winnipeg, Canada. And he was a really avid hockey fan, a ferocious hockey fan. He was a sports writer, among other things, and he had a hockey blog. And when he died, hundreds of people showed up to his funeral. Because throughout his life, he had written a lot about hockey and people recognized him, but also because he was not foreign to any single Jewish charity that existed in Winnipeg. But also, he was not alien to any single non-Jewish charity that existed in the city of Winnipeg. By the way, he was one of the highest donors to the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg, but also to his own synagogue. He was a member of every possible committee. He was a member of every possible society. He went and he helped in the soup kitchen. He helped clothe the naked, and he helped feed those who were in need. He was an exemplary man. Throughout his life, there was no one he ever met who didn't feel blessed by his presence. His family loved him. His friends loved him. But the magic about this eulogy is that when he found out that he had cancer, terminal sickness, he really accelerated his giving to make sure that no one that he could give money to was going to be left untouched. And he also accelerated his presence, meaning he showed up constantly, even more fervently, to all those charities that he loved. And by the way, he was one of those people that instead of causing grief, he brought comfort. He was one of those people that instead of running away from organized Judaism, he ran into the midst of it. He was one of those people that brought people together, never served as a wedge. According to this eulogy, at the age of 35, when he passed away, he was a driving force in his community. He left behind his child and his wife, and he was a giant. He accomplished in 35 years what many of us will not accomplish in a lifetime. For the sake of those who laid down their lives, for the sake of those who came before us. Today, as we pray Yizkor, let us give our lives meaning. Let us be blessings. Let us make our steps count. That every step that we take on our journey be to bring people closer to each other. That every time we give charity, we mean it. that every time we build, let it be for a purpose. That when we speak about survival, we understand why we survive. That when we fight for freedom, even though we've never experienced something else but freedom, we know what's at stake when we speak about tyranny. That's what Yizkor means. That is who we are as Jews. That's what's at stake during these moments. Lo העיקר המדרש, אלא המעשה. Translated loosely, Judaism asks us not to talk the talk, but to walk the walk. May I please ask you to rise for Yizkor, page 188.